Hello, welcome to Hersley. I'm here today with two gurus from the Hersley Labs, Mark Phillips and Richard Coppen. And today they're going to give you a fantastic demo of the IBM MQ Virtual System pattern type. Guys, hello, and are you ready to go?
Hello, John. Yes, we're ready to go.
Fantastic. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So yes, as you say, we're going to be talking about the MQ V6 Next pattern type that we're shipping imminently. So we're looking at the moment at the pure application welcome screen, and this is a pattern type. So we'll go to the catalog and see that we've already actually got the pattern type installed on this machine. But when you want to get hold of the pattern type, then it's going to be available from Passport Advantage. And to install it on the Pure App machine, you just go to the catalog and the pattern type screen, and then you'd click on the plus, and you'd be able to upload the TGZ file that we deliver as part of the pattern type delivery. But as I said, we should have this one already installed on the machine. It's version 1000 of the pattern type, but this actually contains MQ8003. So this is the third fix pack on version 8 that we've actually got as part of the pattern type. So we can see that it's installed here. The licenses have already been accepted and it's been enabled. We can see actually it's got two components inside of it. It's got 8002 and 8003 of MQ as software components. And the idea behind the pattern type is it makes it very easy to deploy MQ as part of virtual machine deployments. So you can use it inside of virtual system patterns to build up a topology of virtual machines, some of which will contain MQ. So we'll show you how to do that by going to the patterns and the virtual system patterns panel. And I'm going to demonstrate this by creating a new virtual system pattern, and we'll MQ demo. And we will use the blank template. So what we'll see in a minute when the pattern builder appears is a blank canvas that we can start adding OS images to. And those OS images represent virtual machines. So down the left-hand side, we're going to see a list of OS images that we can install as part of or deploy as part of the pattern type. And we'll see some software components as well, and the MQ software components being delivered as a software component here. So we can see that we've got an MQ Advanced entry on the left, and if I expand that, you can see the two different versions of MQ that you can install. And if you want a quick way of deploying this thing, then you just drag that onto the canvas, and it knows that it's a Red Hat Linux version of MQ, or a Linux Intel version of MQ. So it creates as the default OS node. It's always a good idea to rename these things so you know what we've deployed later. So we'll call this one an MQ server, and it's going to install MQ. And so if we look at this component in a little bit more detail, we'll call this QM1 because I want to create a queue manager here. And if we look on the right-hand side, we see a list of the parameters that are part of the software component. So the first one you see is a choice. Do we want to create a queue manager or not? So you could either just install MQ, or you can install MQ and then have the system create a queue manager for you. So
the default option here is to kind of guide you into creating a queue manager. So you can see that there's a few little red asterisks there to say that they're mandatory fields, and indeed the configuration isn't valid until you've populated those fields. However, if you don't check the tick box, what will happen here is you will install the MQ binaries onto that OS node. Now, on first kind of inspection, that seems a kind of crazy thing to do, but there are instances where you just need the libraries there. Perhaps you're running some kind of MQ client application on that node, and it just needs the MQ libraries, the binaries in its path, to be able to do a connection into an MQ elsewhere.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. So one of the other nice things you can do with the new pattern type for MQ is that you can put multiple versions of the software component on a single VM. And this is different from the old hypervisor edition that we delivered, in that you can actually create multiple queue managers on a VM. And one of the other nice features of the the new vSys Next pattern types is you can combine different types of software, different types of middleware on the VM as well. So, for example, having put MQ on the machine, we could also put the integration bus on there, or put a copy of DB2 or WAS on there. So we've got 2 queue managers. I need to provide the details for the second queue manager as well. So make sure we give it a different port to the previous one.
Just in this configuration state right now, we've kind of got a clean machine here. So the installer is going to lay down the files for MQ and do all the background configuration, but it's also going to go ahead and create the MQM users and groups. And one other option here, if you kind of want specific user UIDs and GIDs for those things, and other customization of the machine beforehand, you could of course have a pre-canned OS node, drag that onto the pattern builder and then put MQ into that environment, and our code will make sure that it uses the existing users and groups that are on the system.
Okay, so I've still got a yellow triangle here. That's just telling me that I haven't provided the passwords for the machine. So I'll just set up some passwords, and then we're good to go. So this is a pattern now that we can deploy. One of the other things we're delivering in the pattern type is a number of script packages to make it easier to configure the queue manager once it's there. So if we filter, there are lots of script packages on this machine, but if we filter on MQ, we can see we're providing 2 new script packages. One is called MQSC command, and if I drop this script package onto the machine, then it gives me the ability to run a single MQSC command on the machine. So I can tell it which queue manager I want to deploy the command against, and I can give it a command like display queue local star, display all of the local queues on that queue manager. And then the other script package we've got is MQ execute MQSC, not MQSC command. And this is a script package that will run all of the MQSC command files, either that have been packaged inside of that script package, or that have been loaded onto the machine in a separate directory. So what I could do here is I could give it the name of a directory which contains my MQ scripts, and we need to get the scripts onto the machine to execute here. So as I said, you can either package those scripts inside of the script package, or you could load them by building a special OS image, like Richard said, or you could package them in a different script package. The script packages are very easy to create, so you could have a script package which just unzips some configuration scripts and jumps them onto that directory. Okay, so this pattern's finished now. It's a simple pattern that will create a VM and 2 queue managers, so it's ready to deploy.
You may also wish to create your own script packages that do other configuration as part of the MQ install, or indeed after the MQ install. So any user has the ability to create script packages and deploy them into their pure environment, and then they would be available to mix into this VM stack that we've created here.
That's right. So I won't deploy with these script packages on because I haven't put the scripts on the machine. But we can save this now, and we can go to the deploy. Okay, that's saving. So once that's saved, good, we can go back to the list of patterns and filter down to see our demo pattern, and then we'll go across and we'll click the deploy button. So this will bring up the deploy panel, and we'll just hit quick deploy on this one to get the pattern deployed. Now we've got one that we deployed already for speed for the demo, so that's the button that we click to deploy it, but we should be able to go off and actually see an instance that's already running. So I won't deploy now. We'll go straight to the virtual system instances panel, which is the thing that shows us what we've already got deployed. Again, there's plenty running on this machine, but if we filter on MQ, we can see this MQ demo instance.
That deploy process does quite a lot of stuff under the covers. So the machine is created, then the MQ software component is moved over onto the machine, and our configuration and installation scripts are executed. We also lay down some start-stop scripts which have logic in them to manage the queue manager starting and stopping as part of the pure start-stop process. And in addition to that, we open up the appropriate ports defined for the listener port in the configuration panel on the pure firewall, so that MQ clients can connect in and out of the machine.
That's right. So scrolling down to the middleware perspective on this panel, which shows us that we've got a deployment, is we can see that we've got these two different queue managers that have been created as separate parts on the machine, and we can see that they're running. From here, we can get to the logs for the queue manager, and we can see, looking at the MQ server VM, again, we've got green goes buttons for the middleware, so everything's looking good. And from here, we can access a number of different management functions for that machine. So these are VMs that are being deployed and that you can obviously log into and administer MQ in the normal way. But we've provided a number of ways of administering the queue managers from the Pure App console as well. So we're moving from that panel which showed us the deployed instance into a specific instance console. And here you get some basic kind of monitoring for the VM. If we deployed multiple VMs in a topology here, we'd see multiple VMs on the left-hand side, but at the moment we can just see there's our MQ server. And we get some basic information about the CPU usage and that kind of thing from this panel. Then moving across the tabs to the logging tab, one of the MQ specific features we've added here is that on the left-hand side, you'll see a list of logs for that machine. And here, there are a set of logs that show how the deployment went. So we can see the two queue managers have been created, and we can get a bunch of information about that. But we also get access to the MQ logs here. So if we expand that, then we can see that we've got two queue managers, and we can get straight into the MQ error logs here. So we can see an MQ administrator would recognize this. We can see the MQ error logs. We can see down at the bottom that the queue manager has been started. And
this is a really nice kind of feature here. So rather than having to log into the individual machines where the queue managers are in the sort of traditional administration sense, this is now exposed in one place on the Pure application system. So you can just kind of go in there and click, look at the log, cut and paste whatever you need in there. It just makes it a whole lot easier to manage either lots of queue managers or lots of machines.
Yeah, that's good. And if you want to, you can even track the end of the log, so you can see errors or status messages for the queue manager rolling in there. Okay, so the other area where we've done some work to make it easier to administer MQ from the outside of the machine is the operations console. So if we move across to that, then we can see again we've got the two queue managers on the machine, and if I click on one of those, then we can see there's a set of operations that we can perform on the queue manager. So the first one up here is we can stop or start the queue manager from outside of the machine, and we've done some work on this to make sure that the queue manager stops according to best practices. So first we gently quiesce the queue manager, and then if it's taking a while to stop, then we escalate that to some immediate ending of the queue manager.
Again, that's moving some of that kind of very specialist administration tasks away from having to log onto the machine and knowing all the right MQ commands to run to just a one-click button here. And indeed, the stop function is more of a pure MQ stop function. So it also takes care of stopping and starting the pure environment in terms of firewall and those other bits and pieces.
Yeah. Yeah. So did we say that? You did say that we open a firewall port, don't we, for the listener? And then we've got some other useful operations here. So there's the ability to collect logs from the machine. So you can collect the error logs as a nice zip file. If there were any problems with the machine, then you can collect the first failure data capture files as well from the machine here. And then you can clear down that information once you've collected it. There's some operations which hopefully you won't need, but if you do need to take trace of the queue manager, then you can start and stop trace from here. And there's a set of diagnostic operations that you shouldn't really need to use. But if IBM support needs to do some extra debugging on the queue manager, then there's some operations here that make that much easier to do. So you can do things like collect the kernel details of the machine and collect stack traces and that kind of thing. So
again, in the tracing function, we enable you to not only start-stop trace, but also to format that trace and collect it. So if we were to go through that process, the zip file would be presented as a sort of one-click download in that bottom panel there under execution results. And that's kind of a nice feature. So again, you don't have to worry about FTPing to specific VMs and knowing all the IP addresses to get the trace. It's kind of presented in one panel for you.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah. So the other thing you can do from here is you can apply fix packs. And so at the moment, as I said, we've got 2 versions of MQ in this pattern type. There's MQ802 and 8003. When we ship the next version, so one of the things we're doing with the pure app pattern type is it's now integrated into the MQ build process, and it's something that actually is available as part of MQ Advanced. So if you go to Passport Advantage, then it's just another media part for MQ Advanced. If you bought MQ Advanced, then you have automatic entitlement to this. And when we ship the next version, so 8004, then you'll be able to load up the next version of the pattern type, and you'll see 8004 here as a fix pack that's available to apply to the machine. The queue managers that I deployed on this machine were both 8002 queue managers, and there's only a single instance of MQ actually installed on the machine, so that's an 8002 instance of MQ. So we can actually apply a fix pack to this machine, and we could update both that machine and any other machines in the pattern to MQ8003. So from the pure console, we can automatically apply fix packs to the MQ installation that we've got there.
And the maintenance code underneath will go and execute on all the machines in the pattern that need to be updated and take care of that.
So we can see I've submitted that. So it starts working through each of the machines in turn. If we had multiple machines, applying the MQ fix pack. So it makes bringing machines up to date much simpler.
And that maintenance operation is then logged in the pure environment, so it's kind of like one view to go and see sort of currency in your estate without having to go and audit lots of different systems.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what else have we got? Is there anything else we need to show?
So I think that's a kind of quick overview of where or how the pattern type is installed on the machine, how it's presented in the pattern builder. So there's a collection of things offered in the pattern type. There's the software component itself, so you can start to use MQ in a kind of VM creation and pattern building process. There's also a couple of script packages in there. Those script packages can be interweaved with others that make sense for a VM create in your business, in your environment. And then we've integrated some of these sort of basic MQ administration functions into the pure environment, so you can start, stop the queue managers from one place. It's possible to turn on trace, collect logs from one place, and also as we apply maintenance or add new versions here, by updating the pattern type, you'll see new versions of MQ that you can put onto machines in your pattern. So kind of integrating MQ quite tightly with the pure environment to make it a much easier user experience, which moves away from the hypervisor edition, which is kind of the previous technology where we created a whole VM with just MQ on it. Here, you can start to create patterns that are much more relevant to your business environment. Okay, John, so I think that's the sort of technical overview done. Thank you for setting that up for us.
That's awesome, gents. Thank you so very much indeed. That was hugely enlightening and tremendous fun to watch. Thank you very much. If you want to get more details on that, folks, you can tweet us at IBM Messaging on Twitter, and we'll put the links for more information in the description of the video. Thanks, guys, and thank you for watching. Cheers now.
Thanks, John. Bye.